Hello, welcome to the second video on reproductive models. We're still in the male reproductive system, as you can obviously tell. Last time we had ended by mentioning the membranous urethra, which we, of course, are going to see right in there, surrounded by the external urethral sphincter, which is itself surrounded by the urogenital diaphragm. Now we also see our prostate gland cut in half here. Notice the prostate gland has two tubes running through it. There are actually a total of 3 tubes running through it, but we can see 2 of them here. The more vertical tube, this guy right here, that guy is the prostatic urethra. The more diagonal tube, this guy right there, is one of the 2 ejaculatory ducts. An ejaculatory duct is formed when the vas deferens joins the duct of the seminal vesicle. That happens once on each side. So left vas deferens joins the left seminal vesicle, right vas deferens joins the right seminal vesicle, and we get 2 tubes. Each is called an ejaculatory duct. We see one of them right here. Now, the rest of the things we can see on this model are basically non-reproductive. I mean, we can see the urinary bladder. Here's the detrusor muscle, which you remember, of course, the detrusor muscle. We see rugae, the folds in here for expansion. We see the internal urethral orifice, which is surrounded by the internal urethral sphincter. So we see all that. All right, and with that, we're done with this model, and we can move on to a brand new one with many similar things we've seen already, like the scrotum, and the testy, and the epididymis, and the spermatic cord, and the shaft of the penis, and the glans penis, and the inguinal canal, where the spermatic cord enters the abdominal cavity. And there's the vas deferens snaking along the urinary bladder, going past the ureter right there. There's the seminal vesicle on the back of the bladder, and the prostate gland under the bladder. The muscular floor under the prostate is the urogenital diaphragm, and we can also see the rest of the diaphragm. Here's a bit of it right here and right here and right here. That's the pelvic diaphragm, of which the urogenital diaphragm is but a part. All right, that does it for this outer view of this model. Let's slice it up, or not. I thought I had a sliced version. I guess I don't. Oh well. Surprise, surprise, one less model for you guys to have to know. Lucky days. All right, here we have another slice of male reproductive stuff. Almost entirely, things in here are things you've met already, like the scrotum, and the testy, and the epididymis, and the prepuce, and the glans penis, and the shaft of the penis, and the corpus cavernosa, and the corpus spongiosum, and the penile urethra, and the urogenital diaphragm, and the membranous urethra, and the prostate gland, and the prostatic urethra, and the urinary bladder, with its detrusor muscle, and its internal urethral orifice, and its internal urethral sphincter. Those are all things we can see here that you should, of course, know. There is one, that's it, just one new structure here that we did not see on a previous model. That new structure is this tiny little gland right there. That tiny little gland is known as the bulbourethral gland. It makes a basic mucus after erection but well before ejaculation, with the intent for that mucus to neutralize and lubricate the urethra. There's always leftover pee in the urethra. It's generally acidic. We want to neutralize it. Well, the basic mucus does that. We also want to lubricate the urethra for the high velocity passage of semen, and the bulbourethral mucus will do that as well. All right. On that note, let us continue. And we're on to the female reproductive system. All right. We do see some non-reproductive structures here. For example, we see the urinary bladder. We see a ureter. We see another ureter. And now we're going to see reproductive structures. So we got our urinary structures out of the way. Let's do some reproductive structures here. It's kind of hard to see, but the uterus is under there. There's the vagina right there, attached to it. There's an ovary. The ovary, of course, makes oocytes. The ovary will release one secondary oocyte per menstrual cycle. Ovaries will also, of course, make female sex hormones like estrogen during the first 2 weeks of the menstrual cycle, if we assume a month-long menstrual cycle just to make things easy, and then progesterone during the second 2 weeks. We also see the fallopian tube with its fimbriae and its infundibulum and its ampulla. The fimbriae are like these finger-like extensions that waggle over the ovary. They come together to make the infundibulum, and then they make the ampulla. We'll see more of these guys on a future model. But do note the ampulla is the common site of fertilization. All right, what other reproductive things do we see? We see what is basically the mesentery of the uterus and the fallopian tubes and the ovaries. And that guy that I just put 4 arrows on is the broad ligament, because it extends widely in a lateral direction. We see it over here as well, the broad ligament. All right, what else? What else do we see here? We do see the pelvic diaphragm, putting purple arrows on the pelvic diaphragm. And of course, part of the pelvic diaphragm, maybe I won't do purple for this one, I'll do green. No, we did green already. Golden yellow. Right here, this is the urogenital portion of the pelvic diaphragm. All right, we also see some external genitalia here. So let's draw our attention to that. We see a mound of adipose tissue known as the mons pubis, just anterior to the pubic bones. Of course, that is where pubic hair would be. We see a fatty fold called a labium majus. There are 2 labia majora, and we see one of them here. And so the labia majora are going to enclose 2 smaller folds. We see one of them right here is a labium minus, and there are 2 of these. They are going to enclose openings to the urethra and to the vagina. We do see an erectile tissue at the anterior part right here and extending backwards as well. That right there is, of course, the clitoris. We also see a glandular structure at the posterior end of the labia minus. That is the greater vestibular gland. It is going to make a mucus, a lubricating mucus for the vagina. The vagina has no glands of its own, so it relies on the cervix and the greater vestibular glands for mucus for lubrication during intercourse. All right, that is pretty much it for this view, although do note that all of these external structures are collectively known as the vulva. V-U-L-V-A, the vulva. All right, that'll do it for this repro model video thing, and I'll see you guys next time around.